Thank you for coming. This is an important day for the District of Columbia. I want to acknowledge Senator Paul Strauss, who is with us. You will hear from our other city leaders. I want to, of course, thank Senator Tom Carper for sponsoring us, particularly as it is raining like cats and dogs outdoors. We're here for a dual purpose. We're here to deliver a petition to Congress for statehood. That petition is being delivered by our mayor and our city council chair, Mayor Muriel Bowser, city council chair Phil Mendelson. And the second purpose is, of course, and I have held it up until today, to memorialize the introduction of our D.C. statehood bill. We're particularly happy to welcome our city leaders on this very important occasion. Now, they are essentially responding to a directive from the people of the District of Columbia who voted 85% that they wanted to become the 51st state. I want to thank Mayor Bowser for her initiative on the so-called Tennessee plan, where we fulfill all the prerequisites and then simply petition to become the 51st state. I want to thank our council chair for the way in which he has made sure that that got through the council. Now, we are quite aware that we don't have a champion in the White House today. That bothers us from one point of view, but it doesn't have much to do with what we're doing today. To be sure, Secretary Hillary Clinton was a very strong supporter for D.C. statehood. I mean, she's been a supporter for statehood from the time she was first lady when Bill Clinton was the first to help us bring a statehood bill forward. We would, of course, have had the bully pulpit of the White House, but our task would have remained the same. She can't give you statehood. She can't give the District of Columbia statehood. It is up to D.C. to excite our own people and to get the word out to the rest of the country. That is a formidable task, but it remains the task whoever is in the White House. By proceeding today, we are building on the momentum so that when the Congress is correctly aligned, we'll be ready to move forward for statehood. When it comes to our statehood bill, 60% of House Democrats are doing something a little unusual. They're standing alongside me as if they were here today, because they are equal original co-sponsors of this bill. Already that shows momentum for the bill, because at this point, for original co-sponsors in the 114th Congress, which is the last Congress, there was not 60%, but 50%. Now, by the time this Congress is over, our goal is to beat the 72% full sponsors, co-sponsors, including original co-sponsors that we had in the last Congress. We would have had more. It's just the logistics and the running around the Congress that kept that from happening. We are encouraging our residents to be similarly active in setting goals and then beating the goals each year. We are very pleased to have the real and extraordinary champion of statehood with us here, and he is hosting us, Senator Tom Carper. Senator Carper made history when he held the first ever statehood hearing in 2014, when he was chair of the Senate Committee of Jurisdiction. We are really fortunate to have such a strong advocate for us in a body in which we are simply not represented. He will be speaking to you as well. The petition that our city leaders bring and the growing number of supporters in the Congress amount to the kind of momentum we're trying to build. We know what the Congress looks like. We know what the executive looks like. But if you stop building momentum, you simply won't be ready when the time comes. For ourselves, we cannot be content with less than statehood. We've tried everything else. We tried going for the House seat when we had a partner in Utah. They tried to wipe out our gun laws as a quid pro quo for that. We could hardly leave the city in danger. So all that's left to us, if we want the same birthright that every other American has, is statehood. So we introduced this bill. We petitioned the Congress in the 216th year of the fight for equal treatment in our country. I'm pleased to introduce at this time the mayor of the city, Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And Senator Carper, thank you for hosting us here today. And Congresswoman, thank you for your words. I am delighted to be here with Chairman Phil Mendelson and Senator Paul Strauss and a number of fighters and residents of Washington, D.C. Who are here at the Congress to demand not special treatment, but equal treatment from the country that we love. And we are here to deliver a petition to make Washington, D.C. the 51st state of our great union. It was just last Emancipation Day when I promised the residents of Washington that we would chart a new path and new territory and ask new questions and ask all the questions that we could to advance our cause for statehood. Since then, we worked hand in hand with community members and worked hand in hand with the Council of the District of Columbia to have the question put on the ballot last November the 8th. And while a lot of things happened on November the 8th. One thing that is very special to us is 85% of Washingtonians came out to say, we see our new streamlined Constitution, the boundaries for our state, and we agree to a representative government. And with all of those agreements, we want to advance to the Congress of the United States, no matter the makeup of the Congress, because for us and for all of us, this issue is not a Democratic or Republican issue. It's an American issue. And we call on Americans from both sides of the aisle to look to our city, where we already operate as a city, county, and a state, where we're 681,000 people, where we're tax-paying American citizens. We send our residents to war. We pay more taxes than 22 states, and we're larger than 2 of them. And we take care of ourselves. We are a self-sufficient entity, and we are a jurisdiction that works better than many. Just recently, we got our recent audit. Clean audit, no material weaknesses. We have reserve funds in the bank to be able to invest in the things that will continue to make our city great. And so with that, I wanted to be here with the chairman of the council and our Congresswoman because we have gone to the people. The Council of the District of Columbia has ratified the people's will as represented in an 85% vote. And now we're here to work with our Congresswoman to deliver this piece of legislation to all the members of the Congress. And we call on them for their support.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Representing our council, of course, is the chair of the council, Chairman Phil Mendelson.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and thank you, Senator Carper. We are here to petition Congress to grant the District of Columbia statehood. Why is it that the United States of America is the only democracy on earth where the citizens of the capital city do not have representation in the national legislature? Why is it that the United States of Mexico has been able to grant statehood to its capital city, formerly a federal district just like the District of Columbia, while our Congress is completely unwilling to even debate the subject? Our detractors say that the Founding Fathers intended to diminish the rights of citizens living in what was formerly a part of the state of Maryland. But actually, there is nothing in the Federalist Papers or elsewhere indicating that the Founding Fathers intended to take away our citizenship. Actually, they overlooked this, just as they overlooked the Bill of Rights, which, as you know, comprises the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. Our Founding Fathers were not perfect. Indeed, there have been 27 amendments to the Constitution, including abolishing slavery and giving the vote to women. Our Founding Fathers were not perfect. But we don't need to amend the Constitution to remedy our status in the District of Columbia. We are here petitioning Congress to grant us statehood, just as Congress has granted statehood to 37 states since the Founding Fathers. Last November, over 244,000 voters said yes to an advisory referendum asking the Council to adopt a state constitution and petition Congress for statehood. And that is why we are here today. We are one of the best-run jurisdictions in the country. Our economy and our government finances are arguably the best in the nation. The best in the nation. We have demonstrated the ability to govern. Don't hold us back. Grant us statehood. Let the 670,000 citizens of the District of Columbia be equal to all of the citizens of the United States. I'm now going to introduce Senator Carper, who's been a friend of the district, and as Congresswoman Norton noted, he's the only one to have a hearing on this issue in the last couple of decades. A retired Navy captain, a Vietnam veteran, Senator Carper.
Thanks very much, and Eleanor and Mayor and Jim and Senator. Welcome to our hearing room here today. Glad you could join us all for this important announcement. Yesterday we had a number of students here from the University of Delaware. I think we have half of Delaware on Capitol Hill this week, and they've been lined up. We see them everywhere. But one of the questions mostly was just Q&A, and they asked questions, and I tried to provide answers. One of the students said to me, "Why have you? I've been elected to statewide office 13 times." He said, "Why have you had so much success?" And I said, for 3 reasons. One, my sister and I picked the right parents. And coal mining town, West Virginia, not much money, hard work, deep faith. Second reason, the Navy. Navy was good enough to won a Navy ROTC scholarship, got to go to Ohio State, study economics, and ended up becoming a naval flight officer for many years. And third reason is that I've always surrounded myself with people smarter than me. And my wife says it's not hard to find them. She actually does say that. Well, I want to go back to faith. I mentioned Beckley, West Virginia, coal mining town, family of deep faith. And one of the things that I learned in our church from particularly my mother, and my grandparents, aunts and uncles, was the idea that we should treat other people the way we want to be treated. We call that the golden rule. There's a passage in the New Testament, as you know, where a young rabbi 2,000 years ago was beset by a bunch of Pharisees trying to trick him and get him into trouble with the Roman officials. And they said, "You're so smart, Rabbi, why don't you tell us the greatest commandment of all?" And he said, "There's not one, there's 2. Tell him what the first one was. And he said, "The second one is to love thy neighbor as thyself." And they asked him the question, who is our neighbor? Who is our neighbor? And he proceeded to tell them the parable of the Good Samaritan. The parable of the Good Samaritan. Well, in this case, who is our neighbor? And how would we want to be treated if we were in their place? How would we want to be treated if we lived in a state where we actually had maybe fewer people than the District of Columbia and would be denied representation, voting representation in the Senate, and how would we want to be treated? How would we like it if we actually were from a state that paid a fair amount of income taxes, federal income taxes? How would we like that? And more than maybe a bunch of other states, and yet we didn't get representation in the country. How would we like that? We wouldn't like that very much. How would we like it if we were a state where we had maybe more people going to serve on active duty in the military than a bunch of other states, yet we did not have federal representation to vote in the House and the Senate. Golden rule. Love thy neighbor as thyself. How would we want to be treated? I don't think we'd like it. I think there's a real equity fairness issue here. And that is that this has got all these people who live here in the District of Columbia. They do pay taxes. They serve in our military. They're full citizens in every sense of the word. But they don't get fair and equal treatment. And we need to change that. And obviously it's not easy. Otherwise we would have had this celebration years and years ago. This is hard. This is hard. I'm a big sports fan, and I've never been a huge hockey fan, but I really admire some hockey players, including a guy named Wayne Gretzky. Anybody ever hear of Wayne Gretzky? Yeah. Wayne Gretzky. He's famous for saying a number of things. One of the things he used to say, people say, Mr. Gretzky, why are you such a good hockey player? And he would say, I go where the puck will be, not where the puck is. So I go where the puck will be, not where the puck is. The other question they asked him a lot was, Mr. Gretzky, why do you take so many shots on goal? He took a lot of shots. So why do you take so many shots on goal? And he says this, he said, I missed every shot I never took. Think about that. I missed every shot I never took. We're going to keep taking the shot. And eventually, we'll score the goal. And the goal that we score will be a victory for fairness and treating folks the way that we'd want to be treated. And to make sure that the folks in this District of Columbia not only will have great elected officials, and they have a bunch of them standing behind me, but also have somebody standing with my colleagues and me and the United States Senate and voting on issues. And those who could not just serve on committees and so forth in the House and vote on committees, but also have the chance to vote on the floor of the House of Representatives. That would be the victory. In the meantime, we have a chance to take a shot. We're going to take that shot. And in the end, I think there'll be a great victory. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carper. We can't thank you enough for how you have championed statehood here in the Senate through thick and thin, and there's a lot of thin now, and you're still championing. Now, I'm going to ask our council chair to come and to sign the petition for statehood so that you can see we really did it. And would the city leaders just stand with him? And Senator Carper, would you stand on the other side?
I bet. But not one I can give away. It's my fountain pen. There are three versions here, or three copies here, one for the President of the Senate, one for the Speaker of the House, and one for our Congresswoman. So this is for the President of the Senate.
We'll give this to Senator Carper.
Let me sign this one last. This is for the Speaker of the House.
I'll see that he gets this.
Okay. And then we have a copy for you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
We'll treasure this.
Thank you.
If any of you have any questions for the speakers.
Senator Carper. I was at the hearing, Senator Carper, as you chaired. 2014? Yes, I was there. It was appalling. No Democratic senators came to the hearing. You were it. The only other senator came was Senator Coburn, you remember, who was a Republican. You authored the bill. You introduced the bill. Delegate Norton is mistaken. There was a hearing in 1994. That's right. It was called an informational hearing. This was a hearing on the bill. The history is not known. And you called it an educational hearing. You didn't produce one Democratic senator, even though there were Democratic senators who co-sponsored the bill. Delegate Norton did not ask for a markup. So we waited from 93 to 2014. You know, we're here in the Senator Dirksen office building. I'm from Illinois originally, and he used to introduce the marigold bill to make the marigold the national flower. Every year he introduced it, and every year it went nowhere. How can you be our champion of statehood when after the hearing, there wasn't a hearing, there were no Democratic senators. I asked you, I distinctly asked you, and I think you remember, did you go to any of the Democratic senators, even the ones who co-sponsored the bill, Begich, Landry, Baldwin, Levin, and ask them to come to the hearing and ask them to vote for the bill? And you never responded. We're now here in 2017. You're the chair of the committee. The Democrats win the Senate in 2018. The Democrats take over the House. The stars are aligned. How do we know, the citizens of the District of Columbia, that you won't do the same thing, which was nothing?
Thank you for your question. It's nice to see you again. I think one of the things that continues to change over time is maybe not the number of people who show up for a hearing, but the number of people who actually co-sponsor legislation. And there are different ways to measure success. And one of the ways that I would suggest we measure success is the number of people who are willing to put their names on a bill as a co-sponsor. Because we did not have really any support on the Republican side. And
the majority on the committee of Democrats. Yeah. This is crucial.
Let me just go ahead. And one of the things that came. I'm sorry.
Senator Reid said that if the bill got out of committee, and then I'll be quiet.
Okay.
If the bill got out of committee, he said to me personally, who co-sponsored the bill when the Frederick Douglass statue was unveiled. You were there, or you were supposed to be there. Mm-hmm. And he said, if it gets out of committee, I will take it to the floor. So you had a Democratic majority on the committee. You were the author of the bill. When I asked Delegate Norton if she had spoken to the other senators, she said to me, you go talk to them. I reminded her that she's a delegate, that she's elected. No, these are answers. This is history. This is revisionism. How do we know that we're not going to be here another year when the author of the bill, Mayor, and the introducer of the bill, and the chairman of the bill doesn't even move his own bill?
All right. There is an educational process underway. And part of that educational process is to try to convince not just the people on my side of the aisle, but on the other side of the aisle that there's a basic inequity here. That folks who actually pay a lot of taxes, who actually serve in combat, who are meeting the requirements of citizenship in this country, are not being treated fairly. And as much as I might like to move that, I need some help on the other side of the aisle. I need some help on the other side of the aisle.
That's what I'm trying to do.
And one of the things that's changed is we've had I think a referendum where what percent?
85.
Some 85% of the people here have actually voted and said, we want this to happen. We endorse this idea. And part of my responsibility is to share what has changed. Why is this different this time? And the idea of continuing to take a shot. I think our chances improve over time and continue to improve.
Senators this time.
I have before, and I will again. We talked about it at our caucus lunch.
Why didn't you move
I think your time
in your hearing?
has expired.
Thanks, Mark.
Senator, could I thank you for having garnered a record number of co-sponsors? Can I thank you for having gotten every single member of the Senate leadership to co-sponsor our bill? We could have no better champion. I want to inform you, if you could move a bill, I would move a bill to the House floor right this moment. Members can't simply move a bill. They've got to show that they have the votes to move the bill. Yes, sir.
I'm a very young man, so I don't have the encyclopedic knowledge that Mark has of this. But the license plates say taxation without representation. The license plates don't say no taxation without statehood. I want to ask you about something that's going on in 2017 right now. As you know, Congressman Chaffetz had proposed this retrocession idea of his. You reacted strongly to it, but a moment ago you said you will accept no resolution that does not include statehood. Is there any scenario which would provide representation to the residents of the District of Columbia that would give them representation that would not include statehood that you would be open to accept?
Well, as I said in my opening remarks, we have tried to get representation the only way we know how. You can't just come forward and say, give me representation. So we got Utah with us. By the way, the governor of the state came and testified. We had them the whole way. And it was because the NRA attached an amendment that we don't have statehood. Look, I'm not saying that the only thing we'd be satisfied with is statehood. I'm saying that nothing but statehood gives us our full rights. Look, if the Congress of the United States were to give us budget autonomy tomorrow, that would be a great victory. If the mayor's and the council's budget didn't have to come. So we don't fool ourselves to believe that the Congress takes great leaps, even though we are demanding the great leap on taxation without representation. That idea, by the way, came from a district resident. And I understand that even this president hasn't taken it off of his car yet. Is there any other question?
Let me just say a little bit more. You know, actually, we're changing the license plate, I believe, to say no taxation without representation. But the reason why there's that phrase is not because our goal is simply representation. It's because that phrase is evocative of the principles of this country, the revolution. That's why. And I mentioned in my remarks the Federalist Papers and the Founding Fathers, because oftentimes the rhetoric used against us says, well, the Founding Fathers never intended for us to have representation or statehood. And so oftentimes we look back to, or we hearken back to, phrases such as no taxation without representation to make the point that this is an American principle. There's been disagreement among advocates over what exactly is the right strategy, and sometimes there are folks who say we shouldn't follow an incremental approach, and there are other times when we've seen that incremental approaches like budget autonomy are a good thing for the district. That's why there was support, and Eleanor worked so hard in the House with regard to just having a representative in the House. But as she says, the ultimate goal is that we want the same rights and privileges of the citizens of the United States that all of the citizens of the United States have, because we are citizens of the United States. And the only way that we know that we have the exact same rights and privileges is through statehood.
Thank you for that clarification. I do. As part of your question, I didn't get to answer, and I think I do need to make clear why Jason Chaffetz proposed a retrocession. It was not a stunt. There are a small group of members of the House who historically have had what I would call a political conscience. The no taxation without representation moves them. And so they fall back on somehow giving us to Maryland. Well, the first thing I asked him when he proposed that again was, has he asked Maryland? You know, it's very interesting. They want to give us away. We've already answered that question. We want to become the 51st state of the United States. My good friends from Maryland, and they are very good friends, won't say don't give us the District of Columbia, but you bet your bottom dollar they like things the way they are. So thank you.
Dave Bowser, I have a question.
Yes.
You talked about, I'm not for incrementalism either, but there might be a pathway to incrementalism, and I'm being redundant. There were 22 Republicans who voted for the D.C.-Utah plan. Two of them are quite prominent. One is the Vice President of the United States,
And the other is the Speaker
and the other
of the
is
House.
the Speaker of the House.
Correct.
Is there a pathway? That's a destroyed word now. But is there a pathway to a modicum of democracy for the district without Utah? Because that was a Tom Davis deal. Where you go, and I've asked you this repeatedly, and now I'll ask you before all these cameras and all these people, that you go to Paul Ryan and say to him, you voted for representation. Please move the bill. And then go to the Vice President of the United States, who voted and issued a statement.
Yeah, so let me answer your question, Mark, and I think you know. Our strategy is to attack the question with everybody who we think can influence the question. Early on, before he was sworn in, I met with the president, and then president-elect, to make sure that he understood who we are as a jurisdiction, that we operate already as a city, county, and state, and that we're not treated equally. And the only way for us to be treated equally is to be a state. That's the only way we can get 2 senators. Mark, I'm going to answer your first 3 questions.
I'm better than the past 3. Did you ask?
The first 3 questions, yes, everybody knows that Washington, D.C. wants statehood. And yes, and I told him that 85% of Washingtonians want statehood. And so our approach is to make sure that we advance the ball. And I think it's important for the senator and any legislator that they know that there's support. When you hold a hearing, you want to advance the bill, you want to know that there's support behind you. And that's part of our job, is to garner that support. And so we have, and we know our Congresswoman and all of us have work to do in talking to members of the Congress so that they know to remove the partisanship from this question. This is a question about democracy.
Will you see Pence and Ryan and ask them to support or to reaffirm their support for representation?
I frankly think that the issue is with the President of the United States and the members of Congress.
Go back to the President?
I plan to talk to the President on any number of issues.
Just to clarify,
It's another question.
it is true that Vice President Pence and Speaker Ryan did support the vote for D.C. There was a very special reason for that. Unfortunately, he passed, and that was Jack Kemp. Ryan's mentor was Jack Kemp, and Pence and Kemp responded to Kemp and Kemp's very special reach out to them. And as much as we are grateful for that, and I have approached not the Vice President, but I certainly have approached Speaker Ryan, believe me, that was all a function of Jack Kemp. Now, we've got to wrap up because
I just had a question about how many. You said 60% of Democrats. How many actually is that? And
you say what? We'll give you that number. Okay. We'll give you that number. That's 60%, but we'll give you that number. 160. Any other questions?
And also, what specifically are you doing besides talking to Speaker Ryan to get Republican sponsors on board? Are there any others you've gone to?
To be honest with you, we're not attempting to get Republicans on board now. They have a party line view on statehood. It's very harsh, and it is getting harsher. We haven't done our homework yet if we only have 72% of the Democrats. So we will, if we have any opening, we see any opening with the Republicans, we will hop right on it. And you see the only kind of opening we're getting, and that is Jason Chaffetz's notion that we should become a part of Maryland. That's about as far as they're willing to go. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.